as we're getting ready to go in, our guys, DJ being one of them, says, open, open, open. So front door was open. So they start going in, but as we're going in, we notice off to the left in the courtyard, there's like 11 women and children sleeping there. So right as the guys make entrance, we say, hey, kick some people, grab these women and children. And it was right about that time that a couple of grenades were dropped off the roof, and all of a sudden gunfire starts erupting from all around. So grenades go off. A couple of guys get fragged. Our interpreter really gets fragged. He takes the brunt of it up the side of his body. He takes a big piece in his neck. He's screaming on the porch. We're trying to shuffle all these women and children in who are now screaming and chaos. Push them into the house. I went in, started making entries. That was kind of the time that DJ and them went up on the roof. And as soon as they made entrance on the roof, 3 fighters, one directly engages DJ. They smoke check him, and they come back down the stairs, but they realized, hey, we got a machine gun on the roof, that machine gun was lighting off now on the 2 other buildings. We also started taking fire from another building about, 75 yards behind this house. So, for me, as the assault force commander, like chaos, screaming women and children. I got a guy that's bleeding out, guys that are all, SEALs that are hurt, but not bad, just minor frag. But still checking on them, making sure they're okay. DJ and them come down the stairs and are like, hey man, we got this embedded machine gunner, and we're taking fire from the back. So my first thought is, okay, we need to let's kill these guys behind us. So we had some helicopter gunships. So I said, okay, I need a full head count first. So it's kind of chaotic. Our medic, I said, hey, casualty collection point, let me know what you can do. And I started moving around the target to kind of make sure I got a count to see where everybody was. So some of our guys were still outside, pinned down, that were laying down fire. Came around the corner at the rear of the building, and 3 of our guys are so there's kind of the back porch is right here, and this is like a brick wall that you could stand behind, and the 3 of them are in a 1, 2, 3, just out in the open, like shoot out at the OK Corral. And I'm like, hey, dudes, get some cover, you ain't gonna stop bullets. And so they got back behind the wall, and at this point, dude, it keeps raining grenades. These dudes on the roof just keep dropping grenades down on us. So I finish coming around the building to try and get this full head count, and I'm down 1 every single time. And I'm like, dude, where is this other guy? So I'm like, this is a problem. I can't call in this fire mission until I figure out where this guy is. So talking to the ground force commander, I'm like, hey man, I'm navigating this out. He's like, hey man, we're ready. We'll release this fire mission. I'm like, I'm down a guy. You gotta wait. So suddenly it dawns on me, how many guys stepped off for those sleepers at that other house 60 yards away? So, cause I was counting them. I was counting 2. So I'm like, dude, I need somebody to go check this. And then I'm like, who the fuck's going to do that? We're in the middle of this gunfight. So finally I was like, I guess it'll be me. So came out the door, told my team leader, I'm like, hey man, I'll be right back. I'm going to this other house to get this head count. And we had 2 guys that were kind of out next to this little building, this concrete building that they were behind laying down fire. One of them, a machine gunner. And I said, hey, I'm going to that other house 60 yards away. I need you to lay down fire on that rooftop. And which they did. And dude, I don't know what it was. I felt like my gear weighed 500 pounds. I feel like that's the longest run I've ever done in my life. I don't know if because there was all this gunfire, but I was just I felt like I was running in slow motion. And I was expecting to get shot at any minute. But I finally got to the other house. Sure as shit, 3 guys and not 2. Had my full head count, ran back, and we released the first fire mission on the house behind us. I get back, still chaotic. Our medic's trying to, and he's like, "Hey, dude, you know, our turp's going to bleed out if we can't get him out of here soon." So, guys on the rooftop still dropping grenades and firing in all directions. So I'm like, "Hey, we got to take these guys out on the roof." And Mark Weiss, who no longer is with us, Mark ended up crazy drowning in a diving mission, or in a diving. He was on vacation and drowned diving on leave several years later. But good fucking dude. So Mark was one of the more experienced guys on the target. I come back in. I was like, "Mark, we got to take these dudes out on the roof." And he's like, "Yeah, I agree." I was like, "We need to send guys up there and take them out." And DJ talked about, we sent this when we started to try and take the roof the second time. We grabbed I don't know, this 15, 16-year-old kid, and we were like, "Do you know who's on the roof?" And he was like, "Yeah, you know, it's so and so." And we're like, "You need to go up there and tell them that if they don't stop firing, you know, we're gonna come up there and kill them." And he was like, okay. And we're like, "All right, go up there." So you know how in a lot of the Iraqi house, you have the stairwell that comes up. There's kind of a landing, and then it comes back up onto the roof.
Yeah.
So we were standing down at the bottom of the stairwell. He went up to the landing, and literally I'm standing from here, I mean, maybe a little further than where you are. And he went up to that landing and took 2 steps up, and man, they unloaded on him with that machine gun and literally cut that kid in half. So he drops. We back up at this point, and I'm like, "Mark, we gotta take these guys out." And he was like, "No, man, that's a suicide mission."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right." So I thought, and then I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." I said, "We are going to get everybody out of this house, and we are going to fall back to the house that's 60 yards away, because we already got our Iraqis over there holding it." And I said, "And then we're going to crush, you know, we're going to drop this house with a fire mission." So, but we had all these women and children, and like, you know, we couldn't leave them on the target. So I said, "Here's what's going to happen. Everybody's going to grab a woman and child. You guys that are out there, when I tell you, you're going to lay down, you're just going to fucking rain hell on that rooftop." And so all of us grabbed these women and children, and we started basically, you know, bounding back, laying down fire, just crushing this rooftop. So got back to that other house and got inside and got up on the roof. And, you know, at that point, called in the gunship that just hammered this rooftop. And we got a whole bunch of secondary explosions. So we had been told these guys, so I don't know if that was, we were joking, did they have a giant duffel bag full of grenades? Because, yeah, they dropped a lot of grenades on us.
Damn.
So we don't know if it was a bag of grenades or if it was suicide vests. We had been told that these guys had suicide vests. So, but we had kind of a big secondary explosion, and that took that target out. So everything went calm, but that night was probably the most chaotic night we'd had on that deployment. So we extracted, went to, I flew myself and the OIC, and I think our chief went to Fallujah Medical, took our 2 guys that had been fragged and our terp who they worked on, and we stayed there, and then, you know, before we came back. But that was kind of my, guys were like, "Dude, Red did a good job." And
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. And dude, that was, it was pretty awesome for me. Like, it was kind of the full circle to finally say, "Hey man, you got this. Like, you can do this."
How did it feel to you, not from the acceptance yet, but how did it feel to you to finally, I mean, it obviously had clicked and you had pulled yourself from the platoon as a leader, you know, and instead of, you know, you're leading men, you know, you're actually fucking leading men now. You're not trying to do their job because you want to get in the fight. You're leading fucking men. How did that feel? Did it click for you that you
It did.
had
100%.
developed into a leader? at this point?
Yes. But I think the implications, I think before that had come into place. I think
Okay.
this was kind of the final, like, hey, man, this is how this works. And I think such a great point was, I think the old Jason Redman, young, immature Jason Redman, when he said, hey, man, we got to take that stairwell. And, the guy had said, no, man, that's a suicide mission. Hey, fuck that. Get up the stairwell. You know? But it was totally a good call. It was the right call. I mean, we would have got guys killed trying to send guys back up that stairwell. So, kudos to Mark. He was 100% right. I mean, just trying to process all this information. I'm like, yes. So, and it wasn't, the thing I tell people, leadership is not like this perfect road. You're going to fuck up. I don't care who you are.
Well, that's a lot of shit going on. I mean, you got women and children. You got a SEAL had been shot in the chest, DJ, who's okay. You got fucking a missing head count. 2 people at another house. You got a fucking fire mission waiting on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a Terp fucking bleeding out of his neck.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of shit to process. And an ongoing threat on the roof.
Yeah. But it was good, man. The guys did an amazing job. I mean, it just further showed me what an amazing group of guys we had to work with. Yeah. But that was kind of the most chaotic night we had. And the night that I kind of felt like the tipping point had occurred. So we saw a lot more. We had quite a few more engagements. We had a lot of close calls on that deployment. I don't know. We made entry into a house one night, outskirts of Fallujah, someplace, where we went in. We had made entry into the target, and we noticed that the carpet and everything had been pushed up against the walls, and house-borne IEDs were becoming a very big thing. So a house-borne improvised explosive devices where guys are rigging houses with explosives to blow up the house when friendly forces, U.S., other allies, get into the house. So as we're going through, our EOD guy noticed it immediately and quickly looked over, and sure enough, there was a command wire that was running out the back of the house off into the field. So immediately yelled out our call for get the fuck out of the target, and I won't use the word, but that word got yelled, and man, it made your heart freeze. And dude, all of us 100-yard dash, man, as fast as you fucking could, because we didn't know if the house were going to blow up any second. Some of the guys from Dam Neck got caught in a house-borne IED a few years earlier, and it killed the EOD guy. And fuck some dudes up. So we got away from the house. I don't know if nobody was on the end of the command wire or the guy was asleep, but the house never blew. But we ended up calling in 2 500-pounders and huge. Actually, it was Kyle Milliken who called in that airstrike that night, and who's no longer with us. But big secondary explosions.
Damn.
So we had that. We took down some other really complicated targets that just very hairy, but guys had done well. We had another real close call. So we were going to take down a target. It was a mobility op. So we were in our Humvees getting ready to leave base, and we were racking our weapons, getting everything ready. And the 50 cal, something broke on the 50 in the lead vehicle, and we were like, hey, all right, well, we got to fix this. So they were like, yeah, we got repair stuff in one of the rear vehicles. We need to go get it. We need some time. Okay, roger that. So we pulled over on the side waiting for them to repair this. As we're waiting, a Marine Corps convoy drives up next to us. And the platoon commander talks to me and says, hey, man, where are you guys going? We're like, hey, we're heading west. And I'm sorry, east. And he said, okay, roger that. So are we. I said, okay, just be advised, we're going to be leaving. We're going to be coming up behind you guys, at some point. He's like, okay, no problem. So they were brand new in country. Like they had only been there like a week or something. So they went out and turned down Michigan. and started heading same path we were going to go. Get our gun back up. 10 minutes have gone by, and we leave. We're heading down the road, and we've been driving maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and big explosion down the road in front of us. So the Marines hit an IED. So if our gun had not gone down, that would have been us. And we came up behind them, and the kid in the rear vehicle, all amped up, fucking shot at us with a 50, which thank God he missed. He went wide, but he skipped rounds under our Humvee, my Humvee, the number one. So we had just had all these crazy close calls leading up to the end of the deployment. But for me, it was awesome. It was an amazing deployment. I had gotten everything back on track. I was up for orders in my next position, so I had a couple of choices. One of those choices was to screen and go over to Dam Neck, and I requested. I said, hey, I'd really like to do this. And I didn't know if they'd give me the thumbs up after screwing up, but I got a positive thumbs up across the board, so I was approved to come back and screen, which is, it's the first step. But even just to get the CO to say, hey, I'm going to let you do this is a big deal. So I had that. I had a couple other leadership positions that were my secondary choices, and we were just kind of working on wrapping things up. We were waiting for our next level of missions. We had kind of shelved some of the missions so that we had turnover ops with the next team that was coming in, which I believe was 2. And my boss came up to me and said, hey, Red, this next mission, you're going to run as the GFC, as Ground Force Commander. So I had been running as Assault Force Commander, Mobility Force Commander. Your next position, which is the senior position, leadership position on the ground, is Ground Force Commander. So, which is a big deal. I mean, they were grooming me for that next level leadership. So I was like, wow, man, this is awesome. I finally, I did it. You got your career back on track. You did the impossible. All my marks were really high. We were working on awards. We were working on flow to get guys back home. Everything was good. And literally, we were 1 week from sending the first wave of guys home. And I was on the last bird, which is fine because I had come late anyways. So we were just, everything was good. But we got word that the leader, the Al-Qaeda leader, who they had gotten into the big gunfight at the beginning, who had, killed Clark Swedler, was going to be in Karma. As a matter of fact, not far from where we had gotten into that big gunfight in June. It was only a couple hundred yards away, which wasn't far from where Mike Day got shot up also. So there was a lot of...
Interesting they would put the top guy in an area where you guys have been fucking up, you know what I mean? Not fucking up, but bringing it to him. It's just interesting that an area where there's so much SEAL activity, going after bad guys and killing them, that they would put the leader right in that same vicinity.
Well, I don't think he stayed there regularly. I think he came in for a meeting.
Okay.
Is what it was. So it was because it was a time-sensitive target. We got word that he was going to be there for a small period of time. So I did not think that mission was going to go. There was a lot of amplifying info that is classified that I'll leave. But I just didn't think that mission was going to go. So it was, I think we first heard about it around 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And, right about the time we woke up and we're starting to gear up, because we slept during the day and then just worked at night. So kind of heard the rumblings and the murmurings. And because of some of the things in the background, it had to go all the way up the chain of command. The Iraqi chain of command, senior leadership chain of command, in order to get approved. I also thought maybe another unit may take that mission. So that's why I just thought this probably is not happening. So I went to the gym and was working out. When one of the guys came in, 8 o'clock or so, and he's like, hey man, this mission's a go. So Went back, we started mission planning, and about midnight we launched, and it was a pure helicopter insertion, and we were going to land right on the X, right on the target itself.
Hey guys, let me tell you about this subscription service that I've been working real hard on called Vigilance Elite Patreon. Basically on Patreon, we have it broken up into 3 different tiers. We got tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Let's dive in. Our tier 1 patrons get all the behind the scenes footage of the Shawn Ryan show. That could include behind the scenes photos, that could be side conversations that we have in between breaks, that could be specific questions that our patrons give us for the guest on the Shawn Ryan show, and a ton of bonus content that doesn't really fit into any specific category. For our tier 2 patrons, they get access to our tactical training library, which consists of well over 100 videos. We've broken those videos up into separate categories, and those categories are rifle fundamentals, pistol fundamentals, drills, tactics, driving, gear and weapon setups, and everybody's favorite, mindset. Also on tier 2, you will get a live update from me on the 1st and the 15th of every month, where we talk about the upcoming guests on the Shawn Ryan show, plus all the benefits of tier 1. Our top tier, which is tier 3, gets full access to all the other tiers, plus they get full access to me, where we do video teleconferencing, VTC, once a month. We discuss anything from tactics to current events to who's coming on the show. I take suggestions, and it's very interactive. No matter what tier you choose, the support is greatly appreciated, and it is the only thing that makes this show drive on. So thank you for all the support. See you on Patreon.
I was the assault force commander. So originally I was supposed to be the ground force commander, but my boss came to me and he's like, Red, like, I don't know. He's like, this could be a very hairy mission. Because we were told this guy ran with a pretty heavy security detail. We were told they wore suicide vests, that they had been trained to clack themselves off if we got too close to him. He was like, I know you're up for the GFC, but why don't you, he said, I'm going to take GFC. He said, you'll be the assault force commander for the target takedown. I said, okay, roger that, no issues. So we flew in, and we ended up having 3 groups. We had the assault team, we had an external security team, and we had the headquarters team. And we had briefed that the assault team, that we were going to come in and we were going to land directly across from the gate, and we had stacked our breachers and our initial entry team and our point men all on the left side door of the helicopter so that they could land. The pilots got turned around somehow, and we ended up coming in the opposite way. So instead of all our initial entry team, it's myself, my team leader, and our communicator sitting in the door on the opposite side of the helo. But you don't have time. It's not like, oh, rejock. It was like fucking go time. So already my team leader was, at about 4 feet, he was already out of the bird running. I jumped out after him, and we're running to the door. Look back, the guys are all behind us. He is number 1, I am number 2. So I start prepping a crash. Flash crash grenade is a grenade designed to stun, create a bright light and a loud bang to stun people inside of a room. So I had the crash in my hand. He gets up, tests the door, door's open. I crash it, and he and I go to make entry with the other guys behind us. And I'd probably done, 100 combat entries at this point. But I think that's probably the first one where, literally, my ass was puckered so tight it was probably up in my chest. I don't know, something in me was like, you're about to get shot the fuck up. And we entered and fully expected to be riddled as soon as we made that entry, and nothing happened. Entered into a very large room. We called a few more guys in. Ended up clearing the entire building and no one was there. We could tell someone had been there recently. There was a lot of activity, cigarettes that still had a little burn, things like that let us know somebody had been there. But a lot of anti-coalition propaganda and stuff like that, but that was it. So called the target secure and started our search, and we started finding weapons buried in the walls. We started finding explosives, IED making stuff. So we're like, okay, we missed the guy, but obviously this is probably the place where, he would be. Someone's here with him. So it's probably 2 a.m. in the morning at that point. Our EOD guys are grabbing all this. There was a car parked outside. We put all that stuff in the trunk, and we were going to blow it in place, and that was going to be it. We were going to call it. It was going to be a quiet night, So myself and the team are waiting for EOD to finish, and then we were going to get off target, and that was going to be it. So we're just sitting there waiting. And my boss comes up to me and says, hey, man, snipers are watching, and we just watched 5 guys run out of a house about 150 yards away and run out of the house and run across the street into some vegetation. So I want you to take your team and go up there. Let's wrap these guys up and find out who they are. Because that's unusual. If you just flew in on helicopters and took down a target, people aren't moving at night like that.
Yeah.
Especially if they're running and hiding. And we had seen that before. We had seen that on other targets. So I got our guys online. There were 9 of us, DJ being one of them. And we pushed up from the south going north towards his house. And there was, where our house was, there was a road and it kind of made a S. The target house was kind of here at the first bend, and underneath that curve was kind of this large vegetated field. And on the north side was nothing but thousands of yards of desert. So we're pushing through the vegetation. We pushed, we had a gunship overhead. As a matter of fact, things had gotten so hairy, we had been getting into so many engagements and had so many close calls. The gunship became a go, no go criteria for us at the end of that deployment. Like if we didn't have a gunship, we weren't going. So we had the gunship overhead, and we're, I was talking to them, hey, what do you see? We just see some guys that are laying there. So any movement, any guns? No, we're not seeing anything. Okay, roger that. So we pushed into this vegetation, and dude, it was so fucking thick, loud, crackly. It was almost, it reminded me of like a bamboo grove. But it was so dense, like your night vision didn't work at all. You couldn't see shit. You just had this green blob. And we're trying to crack through this stuff. So my spidey sense is like going bonkers. And this is, I tell a lot of people now, and I try and tell young leaders, man, listen to your sixth sense. I wrongly chalked it up as fear. I was like, it's just fear. This is a hairy situation. This just fear. This is our tactics, continue to push through, and, everybody's online. We're good. Gunship doesn't see anything, but I didn't listen to that. I should have, hindsight being 2020, I would have grabbed my team leader and said, hey man, my spidey sense is going nuts. How's yours? What's going on? And maybe he would have said, hey bro, I think it's just fear. Let's drive forward. Or he would have said, yeah, dude, maybe we should approach this a different way. So we kind of kept pushing forward. As we're driving through, the gunship comes over and says, hey, you're going to miss those guys. You need to turn to the northeast. I said, roger that. So we make this turn. On our left were 2 new guys and our EOD guy. So apparently those guys weren't monitoring the right freak. So they didn't hear the call to make that turn. So when we made that turn, they kept going straight. So as we're pushing, we realized, it was the interpreter was off to my left, and he said, Red, hey, the guys aren't with us anymore. I'm like, what? So we stopped, took a knee, and we're waiting. Can't really hear them. At this point, we had moved up to the northeast, and I don't know who was on the far right flank, but they were like, hey, I'm on the edge of a field. Why don't we push out? Let's get out of this vegetation and then we can push up to the north. At that point, our EOD guy came up and said, hey, yeah, we missed you guys somehow. He said, I can push out to the west. I said, yeah, do that. Let's, because now, all I'm thinking about is we have 2 maneuvering elements and an unknown enemy force. So I'm like, roger that. We're pushing out to the east. You guys push out to the west. Let's move up in the open area. Let's reconnect. And then we'll go in and wrap these guys up from the north. So as we're pushing out that corner, I was now closer to the front, myself and the interpreter, DJ, our medic, one of the other guys, Matt, is behind me, and our team leader. And it was about that time. I'm now out in the open, myself and the interpreter, and push to the left to start moving down, to the west to link up with those 3 guys. And right as our medic is coming out of the vegetation, he literally stepped right on an enemy fighter. This enemy fighter rolls over and goes to engage him, and he shoots him. So at this point now, I'm out front, the interpreter's out front. There's at least one other guy with us that's out front. And what we didn't realize is we were directly in the kill zone.
Who stepped on him?
Our medic stepped on an enemy fighter.
An enemy fighter?
Yep. So what we didn't
shit.
know, so what the gunship saw was only a few guys. What actually was there was almost what we estimate to be a 12 to 15 man element that had a ambush line set up about 5 yards back in that vegetation facing north. What we think probably happened was the leader had been in the building we took down earlier and then moved up to this house, 100 yards away to the north to sleep for the night. And probably had his security detail set up so that if vehicles came in, because our vehicles would have to pull right in front of that vegetation, or if helicopters landed in that open field, either way, they would have been in perfect position to engage us. We ended up coming up from the south. Very disciplined force because, man, we were cracking all kinds of brush behind them, and they didn't engage us from the south. They waited until we were in the kill zone. So, Luke engaged that guy, and that started that gunfight. The whole world erupted at that point. Luke was the first one shot, took a round right below the knee. He had a compound fracture. Bone came out and anchored him right into the ground. He's screaming, pinned down. That's when Maddie ran forward, grabbed him. The only thing behind us was this large John Deere tractor tire in that tree that I guess DJ got behind. I was out front. I'm laying down fire. And I'll be honest, what happened next was I started yelling out, ceasefire, ceasefire. Because I knew the angle we were at. Like, we were in this corner, and those other guys were off to the west. So I'm thinking, dude, we're fucking totally going to shoot each other. So I was initially yelling ceasefire, which I quickly realized, okay, we're in the middle of a gunfight. Like, we can't ceasefire. So then I started yelling, make sure you know who you're shooting at. But yeah, at this point, we're getting all shot up. Maddie had been stitched up the leg and in the arm. He still managed to get Luke back behind that tire. I guess by yelling and shooting, I attracted a lot of attention because at this point I had both machine guns turned on me, and I was stitched across the body armor, 2 rounds in the left elbow. I took rounds off my gun, rounds off my helmet, had my left night vision tube shot off.
Holy shit.
Turned to try and move back to the tire at this point. And I guess that's when I caught the round from behind that hit me in the face. So it caught me right in front of the ear, traveled through my face, took off most of my nose, vaporized my orbital floor, broke all the bones above my eye, shattered the head of my jaw, broke the head of my jaw and shattered my jaw down to my chin and knocked me out. And Jay and those guys saw that. They saw me fall. So they thought I was dead. So I'm unconscious at this point, not aware of that. And this gunfight's now raging. Like they're behind the tire in the tree and they're just, raging gunfight about, I don't know, 15, 20 yards, 15 yards. I mean, it was pretty close.
Apart?
Apart. Yeah, from where the tire and the tree was to this vegetation where these guys are, but we can't see them. All you can see is muzzle flashes. So I come to at whatever point. The gunfight we know lasted 30 to 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. I don't know how long I was unconscious, maybe 10 minutes. So I come to at this point, and I knew I was way fucked up. Like when I got shot in the arm, like that fucking hurt a lot. As a matter of fact, I thought my arm was shot off. After I'd been shot in the face, when I came to, I really wasn't feeling any pain. I just was fucked up. I was trying to okay, where am I? What's happening? And then kind of the world started to open back up, and I could hear the gunfire. I also started to notice rounds traveling over me, the tracer fire literally traveling over me. At this point I was laying flat on my back, and I'm like, okay, holy shit, you're still in this gunfight, and that's tracer fire. Do not sit up. At one point, and I don't know why, I took my helmet off. I'm laying there and I unclipped my helmet and took my helmet off, and that's when at some point I heard it. I took that round through my helmet that now is drawn in my skull, so right through the forehead of my helmet. I took another round while I was laying on the ground off my right side plate. And the interesting thing about side plates is I normally didn't wear them. The only reason I wore side plates at night, one, a little voice before that mission was like, wear your side plates. I was like, I don't normally wear my side plates. I want to be lighter. I normally only wore them on mobility ops to give me more protection against IEDs. But I don't know, little voice was like, wear your side plates. So I wore my side plates and I took a round right off the right side plate. So shit show, chaos, shooting. And I remember there was a lull in fire, and I called out to my team leader and was like, how long till the medevac? And he was like, Red, you're still alive? I was like, yeah, how long to the medevac? And he was like, 5 minutes. So I focused on, you got to stay awake to stay alive. Yeah, you got to make it to the medevac, if you're going to get out of here alive. So I tried to I knew my arm had been fucked up. I tried to get my tourniquet on my arm. And I'll be honest, I'd lost so much blood, I couldn't even break the rubber bands on my tourniquet.
Oh my God.
So, which is a lesson learned. I used 3 of those really thick rigging rubber bands we use for our parachutes.
That's what I used to use.
Yeah, well, lesson learned. When you're really weak, I couldn't break them. I couldn't get enough leverage with my good arm to break them. So I'm laying there, I'm bleeding out. This gunfight continues to rage, and more time goes by. And I ask our team leader again, hey, how long to the medevac? He's like, 5 more minutes. I'm like, you said that last time. So,
were you by yourself over there?
Yeah, I'm out front. I'm literally pinned down about 10 yards, 15 yards in front of the guys. So, and what I realized though is, dude, there's nothing they can do. They've got to win this fight. They can't run out and get you. They're going to get all shot up. So you just got to be patient, which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
When you realize you're bleeding out.
Fuck, man.
So at what point Jay, calls me or yells out, hey, well, let me back up for a second. He asked for a fire mission, and the gunship is like, absolutely not. He's like, you guys are so close, we'll fucking kill you. We were well within danger close parameters. So they're like, you have to figure out a way to fall back from these guys. And Jay's like, dude, there's no place for us to go. It's like thousands of yards of empty desert. It's like, not only that, I got 2 dudes all shot up, one, super shot up, and, we can't even get to him. And they're like, you got to figure something out because we can't bring this fire mission in. We'll kill you guys.
Audio Jungle.
So period of time goes by. He calls back again. They're like, no, absolutely not. So the third time he calls back and he's like, look, and I don't know how long this has been. This had been probably 25 minutes at this point in a very intense gunfight. He's like, we are running out of ammo. He's like, nobody's going to be left if you don't bring this fire mission in. So finally they said, okay, well, what's your JTAC number? So JTACs in the military are guys who've been officially trained to, it's called a Joint Tactical Air Controller. So that means they have been blessed by special operations to have the skills to bring in gunfire from aircraft. And they have to know all the different parameters and all these things so that we don't mistakenly kill friendly forces, which we have done with fire missions from the sky. So they say to Jay, what's your JTAC number? Because they wanted to put the onus on him, that if they accidentally killed us, it would be Jay's fault and not the gunship's fault. And I mean, I respect that. I don't know, sometime. Anyways, so he gave it to him, and I remember him yelling out to me, hey, incoming. And I remember laying there, and you can hear the gun go off, and there's a delay. There's a period of time before the rounds hit the ground. I mean, decent amount. And I remember waiting, and all of a sudden, boom, it was 40 Mike, and it literally hit the ground directly in front of me, and in front of me enough that it blew up, and I felt the concussive blast and the dust and debris. And immediately the machine gun in front of me went cold. And I heard the guy yelling out, Allah Akbar. And I was like, roger that, stand by, bro, because here he comes. And sure enough, they called in the next couple of fire missions. So in between those fire missions, Jay ran forward and got me and dragged me back to the tire. So they were still engaging and fighting. So some of the things I don't remember to this day, I found this out years later. We were all hanging out one night, and our medic was like, hey man, do you remember when you yelled at me for throwing that grenade? And I was like, what? No. And he's like, yeah, like we were back, you were by the tire, you were totally fucking unconscious. And I said, hey, I'm gonna throw a grenade. And dude, you sat straight up and were like, put that fucking grenade away before you kill us all. And the reason being is because I guess it's a training lesson from SEAL Team 4 back in the day. You don't throw grenades into vegetation because it'll bounce off vegetation and come back at you. I don't know, but he was like, yeah, man, like, dude, I didn't, he was like, dude, you like barked thunder and then you laid back down and went back unconscious. So
I don't know.
I don't remember that story at all. I mean, I don't remember anything about that. But finally called in additional fire missions, took the enemy out, and they called in the medevac, and the medevac landed about 75 yards from us. And my team leader started to drag me. And it was at that point I suddenly felt all the pain. I was like, holy shit, this hurts. So I stopped him and I said, no, hey, stop, let me get up. And I still believe my arm had been shot off and I had taken my helmet off. So I was like, Jay, grab my arm and grab my helmet and I'm going to the helicopter.
We get about 200 meters out and you could see the entire posture shift of everybody in that assault force. Everybody switched. You could smell it. Like, this is a fucking ambush. Like, it just is. Walking down the road, the houses we were walking past, like you were waiting. It was a breath hold the entire way. And I say that because people started doing things they've never done before. The pace they were moving, we've never moved at that pace before. When we would do patrolling and training, like there's a lackadaisical patrol and there's a patrol to contact, like we're gonna get hit right now. Everybody was in patrol to contact mode. Like it's happening right now. You're waiting for a trader to throw RD sims and kick the whole thing off. Like it's right there. And I remember the last 50 feet sprinting to the building. They had a big overhang and we've been getting ISR updates. There's multiple guys on the roof. You're like, okay. So as we patrol up, there's a bunch of guys in the courtyard of this, and it's an Iranian influenced cell that we're kind of going after now, and they fight completely different. We lock down some guys on these sleepers out in the courtyard, and we maneuver up. Made silent entry. We go in, we're doing our whole clearance, and I bolt straight for the stairs. It's a huge open room. I don't know how to describe it. Just a huge open room with little offshoot bedrooms. Made no sense to be a house. It was like a structure. And they had a 2-tier landing that came up and banked, and then it basically just opened into the roof. Just an opening in the middle of the roof, and you walked up and you're surrounded 360, 720 by the roof. Stacked up the train and got it right there, right at the last little breach of it. So I'm about this high underneath it. And I stood up and threw on my laser, and there was a dude sprinting at me at full blast with a pistol in his hand and unloaded 6 shots at me.
No shit.
Yeah, so he unloaded. I unloaded on him, got off 3 rounds in a bolt lock. So dropped to my knees and we called exfil. Ran around the back. Everybody got their guns up and running, and grenades started coming off the roof. So in rally, what had happened is...
So hold on. Did you eliminate the threat?
Yep.
He's dead.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't hit you?
He did.
He did hit you.
He hit me in the chest plate in one of the magazines. So pistol caliber, like 45, dead center. Dead center. So snagged me there, which I don't know how he did it, with a downward angle because that was presented. So blind luck, snagged me in the plates, we're good. I don't know where the other 5 went. I don't know how they didn't hit anybody else. But I mean, he was probably within 6 feet. I mean, he was there. What you didn't realize, in the ISR update we did not get, is he was standing at the base of the stairs waiting. They never told us that. He's standing there waiting for us to come up, and there is another shooter in a sandbag position with a belt fed, a PK, aimed at the top of the stairs, and he's pulled off a suicide vest and laid it at the base of the stairs and pulled back a command wire, and you can see him. He's holding it. He's waiting to clack it off. And we never know. So if I would have made entry, if I shot that dude and would have continued to go, that guy would have cut me in half. So just blind luck that I got bolt lock and I forced to retreat. So we start trading grenades on the roof back and forth. A bunch of different maneuver elements are happening. We've got 3 or 4 guys that are fragged from the grenades, our chief included, I think a corpsman, our terp, our JTAC. So a bunch of guys. Not bad, but bad enough. I mean, it's your first time being wounded, like, takes you by surprise. Like, you hear wounded eagle, it's like, oh no. Like, how bad? You instantly think the worst. But we had to win the fight. So we're trading grenades on the roof, we're doing that whole thing. And one of the guys wanted to send one of the mams from the courtyard. He grabs him, terp, perfect English. He's like, I know who that is. Oh yeah? And he's like, it's my cousin. Like, terp tells him again, like, send that dude up there and tell him to tell his cousin to come down here. Like, we don't know who's up there. The slant was really weird that night with how many women and kids were supposed to be there. It was bad intel. It was kind of just hodgepodge, and we sent that dude back up there. And he's calling out to his cousin, you know, whatever he's saying, and he got halfway up the stairs and poked his head up, and that dude let it go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Killed his own cousin. And here we go. More grenades are coming off the roof. So the whole force now, we're basically locked down inside of this building and grenades are coming off. We don't know how many dudes are on the roof. And now there's multiple maneuver elements of bad guys in and around the city. And we have to fall back now. We got a super badass new guy that posted up with a saw. Basically, everybody wants that opportunity. Rock the front of this building so we can all run underneath it. That dude stepped out and just whoa, 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 sent it. We all ran back and we got our first fire mission in, like a first like no shit fire mission.
Damn.
So that was cool. I didn't know I'd been hit yet.
You didn't know you've been hit yet?
I had no idea. I kept having a bolt lock, so I'd fire 3 rounds, bolt lock. I dumped out a mag, grabbed a new one, and when I did, it cut my fingers. So where the round hit it, it had blown out the back of it like a big spider web. So when I grabbed it, it filleted my hands open. So I dropped the mag and grabbed a new one, got the gun back up and running, and for whatever reason, I grabbed it off the ground and put it in my back pocket. Like, I don't know why I did it. I did it. So when we got back on the helo, we're flying out after that whole thing. We got all the medevac guys out. They were fine, minimal injuries, nothing crazy. We're flying back on the helo, and I'm sitting next to Jay Redman, and I held up the mag, and I'm trying to focus it with my nods back and forth, and I don't know what it is. Like, it never even entered my conscious thought that I took a round there.
Damn.
I didn't know what it was. Put it back in my pocket, and we get back to the ready room, and we're going in for the debrief. And I dropped my gear, and I looked at it, and it's still in disbelief. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I hand it to one of the other guys, and he's like, that's a fucking bullet, dude. Oh, that is a bullet. That is a bullet. Dead center. But it was weird when you look at the bullet and the angle it came into. We did a lot of breaching back then. We landed a lot. I used to run around with the charges capped in, and I had them all capped in, and I had my primary charges in a pouch right there, and it nicked the edge of the pouch where the caps were exposed to. So obviously if it would have hit that blasting cap, that would have been a hole.
Damn.
That would have been a bad day.
So for the audience, just real quick, I'm just going to interrupt. When he's talking about the caps being exposed, basically a breaching charge is a bomb, that they use to blow a door, blow a hole in the wall, blow whatever up. And the blasting caps are extremely sensitive. So if that would have hit one of those, it would have been end of the road for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were running on big charges, and we blew everything. We blew everything. That was the SOP back then. If you could blow it, you blew it.
So you didn't even fucking feel. You didn't even feel the fact that you got fucking pegged by a 45 in the chest plate.
So thinking back on it, the guys behind me said they saw me. Like, take a reflex. I didn't feel it. The next morning, when I stood up and I arched back, it felt like I did too many sit-ups, like sore in the sternum. Kind of hard to take a full breath, but nothing like what you'd imagine. Like, I imagine I would have known instantly, like, oh my God. I didn't. The adrenaline was so high that's kind of what we use for like a training analogy now. Like, when that adrenaline dumps, you won't know.
Yeah.
You won't know. Like, in a proximity, a gunfight that is that close, where you see muzzle flash and you feel it, it's very different. It's not being shot at from 300 meters. It's not hitting the wall. It's inside of 6 feet. It's a very different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been shot. I don't know, what that feels like, but I always imagined it would knock you on your fucking ass.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit.
So, yeah, we got through that one. That was like reality is set in now. And it's like, okay, all the stuff in training now everything is slowed down. The CQB is super crisp now. It's all real world. We're very current. And it's good. Like, business is great. We're going out every night, every other night. We've got assets. It's awesome. As good as it ever could have been. And we go back. This is, so the firefight you were referencing was the one with Jay Redman and those guys. That was September 10th. So almost on the anniversary. And everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, but in a positive way. Zero loom. There wasn't an ounce of moonlight out, nothing. And for the guys that don't run around with night vision, those things aren't perfect. They're not, man. You don't have any ambient light out there. Like, they don't work very well. They just don't. So we were going back to the exact same spot, 2 houses down from where that thing happened. So we called it the Karma House. Like, bad karma, here we go. And we were going to land on the X. We're gonna blow the front door and take this thing down hard. That's what we did back then. So flying helos right to the front door, and this is what we're doing. And we knew from past experience is exactly what kind of resistance we were going to meet, and we planned for the worst. Like, I went in on that thing completely knowing in that first room I was going to get shot.
Damn.
Like, they had belt feds, they had suicide vests, like, these guys are committed for sure. If we go in right now, like, that first room is going to be sketchy. And we landed on the X and we ran through that thing like we've done a million other times, and there was no one there. Dry hole. And then we get an update that all those guys had left and had ran out the back. And now they're in adjacent, essentially a cornfield. But if you imagine an endless field of nothing, just a plowed field, and then right in the middle of it is about 500 yards of 6 foot tall, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's like straw, but it's not. I mean, you can't see anything. And they're trying to walk us down on top of this guy. So we all switch over. It's probably 6 or 7 of us. And we all get online and we were all starting to walk down. We've all switched over to fires and we're listening. And 2 of the new guys and 1 of the EOD guys had not switched over to fires. We literally interlocked arms. That's how bad it was. You couldn't see shit. We couldn't lose anybody inside there. We'd never walked through the palm groves before. We didn't have a dog. We didn't have the experience. And looking back on it is one of the most dangerous things I've ever done. Because you knew the guy in there had a gun. Like, for sure. You knew that they run around with S-Vest and you know they're committed. So now we are walking on there. So if you imagine just a big open field with a big sparkle in the center of it, and we're going to walk towards it. And we're going to walk until we find this guy. Okay. So we do. Completely committed, interlocked arms, and we are walking forward and we're getting the updates. 15 feet. 10 feet. You're standing on him. And you see everybody looking down like, he's not here. Third person from the right, you are standing on him. And we all look over to the right, nothing. Like, what the fuck? So we're all on a line, standing right there. And Jay calls an audible. He's like, whole maneuver element, take a right-hand turn, because we know there's an open field. We just have to cross, and now it's completely open. Now we can regather our shit, and we can assault from this side. By walking through all this crazy brush, we can approach it from the open side and just walk in the brush a little bit, maybe call him out, do something else. And when we turn right, this element stayed. They didn't get the word. So now we have a bad guy, our element, and then another element. Now we're in a Polish ambush. We turn, we walk out, and we enter this beautiful manicured open field. There's not an ounce of cover anywhere in it. There's not a rut. There's nothing. There's not a rock. There's a single tire, and it's about 20 feet, 30 feet from the edge of the brush line. It's just out there, and we're standing there in a team guy gaggle, standing around like wondering, what the fuck? Is this guy really there? Is it a dog? Is it some animal? Like, these guys are clearly lost. And we don't realize that that bad guy is in there, probably 6 feet inside, and he's looking at us. And we're from the middle of the wall, and we're close. We're having a full-on conversation, and at one point, we're trying to relay to the other guys, because now we know we've lost 3. Now they're lost in brush country, and we have to reconsolidate them so we can deal with this guy. Because now we know the reality. We've turned the entire profile. Blue forces, bad guy, blue forces. We've got all the rest of the guys over here on the west side. And now we're trying to do a link up. Like, we have to get them around to reconsolidate with us. The blue force picture and knowing where everybody is it's challenging at times, but you really have to know then. We basically walked right up to the edge. It's, Jay's there, our corpsman, our terp, the JTAC, and a guy we'll just call Matty is standing there with me. And we're all in kind of a team guy gaggle. And Jay hears something in the bushes, and I think he believed at the time it was the guys. And he screamed out, "Hey." And when he did, that dude let off the biggest Hollywood belt-fed burst I've ever heard.
Oh,
and
shit.
Everybody dropped. It was like, we used to do the new guy scenarios. You know, you're doing land warfare, the first contact and all the head shed dies. And now you got to drag around like, playing war games. That's what it was like. Everybody hit the deck. And there was a tree probably 30 feet that way. And I remember I turned, I heard it, watched them drop, and I was sprinting so fast to that thing. I remember the dust kicking up in front of me when he was tracking me. I dove behind the tree and he pounded on that tree for what seemed like an eternity. I was on my back looking up. I mean, you can imagine, helmet's cockeyed, there's no ambient light, I can't see shit through my nods, and there's just dirt blowing all over me. I mean, I am consumed by this. I don't even know where he's at now. I don't know if he's on his feet chasing me down, like I'm just overcome with withering fucking fire. And then it stops. And he pans back over and he starts to engage the dudes. This thing goes on for a little bit, and we're trying to reconsolidate. The JTAC has went out and he's trying to grab people now. He's behind a tire. I remember looking over and seeing Jay, and I remember him sitting upright, and I watched him get shot one more time, right in the face, and it looked like that was it. He hit the ground so hard, you knew he was dead. So there's an audible that has to be made. We have the JTAC, and behind this tractor tire, that, I mean, it's a tractor tire. It's not big. It's about that high off the ground. Serves no purpose. And he's behind it, and I'm directly adjacent from him looking at him. Like, I have an out this way. We can't because we have all these dudes that are shot up. And I remember it was like the scene from Black Hawk Down. Come to me. Fuck you, come to me. Ready? Yep. And I got up and I ran as fast as I could, and I dove like a baseball slider in behind that thing. And it was such a sigh of relief to feel another human next to me. I was so thankful that he was there. And now we have to figure out how to get out there and bring those people back here. And this whole thing's happening very, very fast. So Jay's been shot multiple times. He's discombobulated, he's talking, and this guy's still trying to shoot him, but he can't see shit because it's black. So if you're quiet, he can't hear you. The bravest thing I have ever seen in 17 years happened on that night. I watched Matty get up and run forward after he'd already been shot and grab our corpsman and is dragging him backwards, just like out in the movies. Corpsman pulls out his pistol and is shooting into this bush line. And Matty gets shot again. Boom, spins him around and dumps him. He gets back up, grabs him and gets shot again. Dumps him and he gets back up and continued to drag him back until we got them all back to the tractor tire. You know, we're all pulling them in there, and we basically just dogpiled on them. Just plates on plates, just trying to build up a human wall to not let these people be shot again. And he's still shooting us the entire time. He hasn't let up. He just doesn't know where we're at now. So if we can keep everybody quiet, we've got hands over mouths, like people are screaming. We had, the corpsman got shot through tib fib, shattered his leg. Matty got shot through the brachial artery, hit his humerus and shattered that, and it flipped over the back of his neck. And I remember, because we talked about it later and it made sense, he looked very confused at one point, in between dragging the corpsman back, and he said he was looking for his arm. When it broke, it snapped and went over his neck, and he looked down and just saw this. Couldn't see it. I mean, there's no moonlight, you can't see anything. You can't see under nods right there, it's just gone. You look down and there's a stump there. So he doesn't know. He's been shot in the leg. Jay's been shot in the leg and the side plates. I think he took a double stack to the elbow, so it blew out his entire arm. And then he took one to the face that basically removed his jaw, removed his nose, and you could look inside him. It was as bad as it could have been. So we get them back and we go into TCCC mode. tourniquets on there, we're packing wounds, we're doing that, and thank God for that course. I don't know where we'd be without that. The live tissue training and all that. That was, I was so prepared for that. We were in and out of that blowout kit so fast. And I joke with Matty about it. He was, I put the tourniquet on him, he was begging for me to stop. I was like, two more turns. Finally got the blood to stop. I had my fingers inside his arm, feeling out that thing. The medics working on Jay and the corpsman, putting on tourniquets, pressure dressings, all that. And I remember having a distinct conversation with Matty. He's begging me for quick clot. He's like, quick clot, over and over and over. I remember from talking to the surgeons during the training, he's like, if you dump quick clot in there, the only way to remove it is to cut it out. And it's inside of his bicep. And I mean, to me, I have the bleeding stopped. I have it under control. And I'm not pouring quick clot in you because they're gonna have to cut it out of you. Like, I'm saving you, you're not dying here. Like, you don't need that quick clot. We had a bunch of hemostatic dressings. Like, I'm packing this thing, it's fine. And he wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. So I told him, yeah, and I grabbed a thing of quick clot. And I mean, this is underneath a tractor tire where rounds are coming over. I was like, I've got it. And I pretended like I did it, and I went like that. And he's like, thank you so much. So yeah, you never got quick clot. So the next thing, we have tourniquets on them. We are talking about what we're going to do now, and he is still engaging. And the JTAC J starts prepping a fire mission, and it's close. It's the closest, at that point, is the closest fire mission to coalition forces the entire war.
No shit.
Yeah,
How close?
40.
Estimate.
10 meters, 15 meters.
10 fucking meters?
I mean, close enough to where you could take a grenade and throw it.
Holy shit.
I mean, like, it was... And they started walking him in. By this time, the other element we had maneuvered away. Nobody was firing because we didn't have a picture. We didn't know where this dude was coming from. We didn't know where our forces were. And we thought that if we were to engage this guy, we would have hit our own blue forces. So there was a big lull in the fire, and we were basically just being withered. Like we were just getting chewed up. I mean, strobes are getting shot off helmets, like it's in there. And they're everywhere but hitting human beings. So we've essentially taken the tractor and we've stacked up plates in between them on our sides, and now we're just working on people. We're laying on top of people, doing whatever we can. And Jay's prepping for a fire mission, and he's asking for 25 mic and 40 mic, and basically to start walking it in. And I remember a distinct conversation. They said no. They said it's too close. And he said, we're gonna fucking die anyway. Juliet Alpha, send it. Gave his initials, and they started dropping it, and you could feel it. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. You could feel the vibrations start to get closer and closer and start to bounce you off the ground a little bit, and it kept coming. And then they started going tally on target. And I mean, you could hear that dude, the impacts. You'd hear him smack. You could hear him screaming, and it was very satisfying. Like, just let him go. Like, let him go. Like, we're not walking back up that tree line again. Let that dude die. We called in for a medevac. They landed right on the X, right there where we were. We loaded him on there, and I jumped in. The corpsman had already been shot, so we had him, Matty, and Jay Redman. And we talk about the typical team guy shit sometimes about, if this happens, just put me out of my misery. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I get hit by an IED and it blows my dick off, just finish me. Like, people say that shit.
Yeah.
That would have been one of the times. If my face looks like this, put me down. And he was the most coherent, the most calm dude I have ever seen. Sitting upright, leaning forward, letting shit pour out of his face so he could breathe. And he didn't say much, man. I don't know if the shock hit him. I don't think he knew how bad it really was. So I'm working on Matty and the helo. We're kind of doing the whole comb thing, running down his fingers. We're finding bullet holes. We're trying to patch all this stuff up, and we get him back. Those helo pilots flew that bird so fast. I thought they were going to suck us out of the bird. Like, we had to shut the doors. I've never been in a 60 that flew that fast, ever.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.